Hello guys, welcome back to this channel, and today it's time to rank all 24 Bond movies. Don't have much else to say. I mean, I got my first vaccine today for COVID, and I mean, not much to say. But go check out my Bond playlist. I'm not gonna do the minifigure review because this video is gonna be a while. So let's get right into it. Number 24, we have Spectre. I've never liked this movie. I don't like Blofeld here. I think Christoph Waltz does not do a good job. I think he's pretty bad in the role. I like him as an actor, but here he's just so bland. The Blofeld brothers thing just does not work, and tying Blofeld in with the other Craig movies, like Le Sharif and Green, I can understand, but Silva? Like, I mean, his connection was more to M and doing his own thing. Like, was he really working for Spectre? So yeah, I mean, I like that they brought back Mr. White. I do not like this movie at all, but I do like Mr. Hanks, and I do really like Craig here. So, I mean, Mr. Hanks is probably the best henchman in the Craig era, which isn't really saying much because I guess you got Elvis, I think is the only other, like, somewhat memorable henchman, and he's not even good. So, I mean, I think Mr. Hanks is still good. Some of the action sequences are good, like the train fight, the car chases are alright. I also don't care for the helicopter sequence. The finale is pretty dull. And this is the third time that MI6 is going to blow up here. I'll count it for you. One in the world is not enough. The second one was in Skyfall, and now in Spectre. It just completely gets demolished. It gets deleted out of England, pretty much. I mean, I just think tying the other Craig movies just doesn't work. Like, I think they work on their own. So, this is not a good movie. It's boring. It's dull. The action sequences don't offer too much to me. But it's not the worst thing ever. And in some ways, I think it's objectively better than my number 23. We have Dine of the Day. This is one where I have stuff I like about it. Like, I think the pre-title sequence is fantastic. The David Arnold score is fantastic. The car chase is fantastic. The sword fight's fantastic. Really, that whole, really between the part where he meets Jinx and until the Ice Palace, I think that's quite good. That middle part is quite good. And then the pre-title sequence is fantastic. And the car chase is fantastic. Everything else, just no. I think this movie has terrible CGI. The win service sequence is horrible. I've gone over this many times on this channel for this movie as a whole. Gustav Grace is a fine villain. Jinx is an alright Bond girl. And I think Brosnan is still pretty good as always. And I just think the action sequences are quite good. This movie is pretty entertaining for the most part. The Ice Palace layer is cool. I just think the score here is fantastic. I don't understand how anyone could dislike it if you're a fan of David Arnold Bond scores. But it's a bad movie. It's like a really bad movie. But I think some other bad things about this movie, some of the slowdown, speed ups, like in the car chase, are kind of weird. That laser fight is terrible. And I think Gustav Grace is a fine villain. But unlike Diamonds Are Forever, whereas like the satellite plot line is just kind of thrown out there, this one, it's the main focus of the movie. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And it just doesn't work. It hurts the movie. And then Diamonds, it doesn't really bother me that much, but here, it really does. And this is probably the worst plotted movie in the entire series. And I think The Institute, that bigger is better. Just no. The Invisible Car's alright. And this movie, it's enjoyable, but really bad. 22, this is probably the one I'm going to get the most hate for. Yeah, that's Thunderball. And I think Thunderball is okay. Like, I enjoy Connery quite a lot. I think he's fantastic. Really in every scene he's great except for the Q scene. I think Fiona Volpe's fantastic. Largo's an alright villain. I like some other characters like Angelo, he's an alright character, but there's so many characters. Like, you didn't really need all those henchmen. I feel like compared to like other Bond movies, they feel like just normal gunmen, but they're utilized quite a bit, especially Vargas, or I might say that wrong. But overall, like, I think Domino's an okay Bond girl. The underwater stuff is cool, but it's kind of dated, and it doesn't quite work nowadays. So, but one thing I'll give this movie is that it looks fantastic. Like, that's the one thing. Like, I think this is when I feel like there's the escapism quite a bit here compared to some of the other Connery ones. Even Goldfinger or Ian from Russia with Love, I'd say I kind of feel it a bit more here. But it doesn't really add to the movie. This movie's kind of dull for the most part. It's boring. The Bahamas is a fantastic setting. The settings in this movie are fantastic. I love the jetpack. The song is pretty good. But overall, I think this movie has a lot of problems. Like, it's boring. It's dull. The Felix Leiter's okay. Domino's okay. But, like, there's, like, 4 different allies. Like, Paula, Pinda, Felix. Like, Pinda and Felix should have just been one. I don't think Pinda was needed at all. He's only really in, like, 2 or 3 scenes. Clunk Lippy's not really a good character. The whole plot is just dull because you just know exactly what happened. Like, You Only Live Twice, to me, in the story structure, is Thunderball done right. Like, because you don't have the whole problem with that we know everything. You Only Live Twice, like, kind of draws it out a bit more, but that's fine. And I think this movie, it's kind of dull, but you can go watch my full review for more. So I'm going to go on and on about this. Number 21, we have Diamonds Are Forever. This is one that I think is universally hated amongst the community, but I think there's some decent action. Like, the car chase is okay, but I think I heard there was plans that they were gonna do like a whole tunnel action sequence where Blofeld and Bond just show up at the end, but because of budget, they didn't do that. This is the only Bond movie where I think like they actually had budget problems. Like, even like, I mean, when you get to like movies like Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, that's not even close to a problem. And I just think this movie's just kind of weird. Like, this is one I think is kind of like You Only Live Twice, but I think You Only Live Twice is quite a bit better. I think this one, I think it's settled in my mind, because I haven't seen this one as many times. I think this one's just okay. Like, it's enjoyable. There's some fun things. Like, Tiffany Case is an alright Bond girl. I like Charles Jump to the net as Blofeld. He's a ton of fun. And there's a few things I'm just not a huge fan about here. Like, Connery is alright. And I think there's some weird sequences, like the whole thing at the circus. That, like, what? I don't like the Felix Leiter here. Although more than any of the Felix Leiters, this might sound weird, but he feels like he got a promotion after Goldfinger. Like, this and Goldfinger, really a lot of the Connery ones, except for maybe Dr. Non-Thunderball. I guess that's half the Felix Leiters in the Connery movies. Plenty is kind of is alright. Wint and Kid are great henchmen. I don't even know if they're really henchmen, actually. The oil rig is okay. There's some decent things in this movie. It's watchable. It's actually it's quite watchable. The Diamond Satellite plotline is kind of weird for a Bond movie, especially, and it's very cheesy. Las Vegas, not a fan. But I think this movie's okay. Number 20, this might be one that you might be surprised it's a little higher, and that's Quantum of Solace. I actually enjoyed this one a bit more in this watch. I think Craig is great. I think some of the action sequences are great. Like, I think the only reason why actually this one's ahead of Diamonds and very close to the next one is just because I think the action sequences are quite a bit better. I mean, I love the bell tower fight. That one's pretty cool. The car chase is great. And I also really like the whole fight in the hotel room. It's one of the best action sequences in the movie, because I don't know why. I think it's just a fantastic fight. It's probably more than any Bond fight in general. Like, of all the smaller fights that Bond did with just random henchmen, this might be the best one. But yeah, I think that fight is fantastic. The burning building action sequence is quite a bit better. The Theodore score is pretty good, but man, do I hate the song. I just think it's horrible. It's a terrible song overall. And I think there's some odd things in the movie, like the Dominic Green's not a very good villain. The editing is weird. I don't like Elvis whatsoever. One thing that I think I appreciate a bit more on this watch over like past watches, I think Camille Montes is actually quite good. Like, I think her backstory involving Madrano worked pretty well, but Bolivia is kind of dull. So is Tahiti. The settings in this movie are dull. There's some weird cutbacks, specifically the opera action sequence is really weird. And then the interrogation scene had so much potential, but like it didn't quite work. The Bourne stuff, just no. But like there are some great things about this movie, honestly. And I think the main reason why it's a bit higher than I was expecting is because I literally just put this on right after Casino Royale. So that might affect my opinion here. Number 19 is The Man with the Golden Gun. I absolutely love Scaramanga as a villain. He's fantastic. Moore is okay. The action sequences are okay. The boat chase is fine. The car chase is pretty good. I like the gun wielding funhouse action sequence. I'll just call it the funhouse action sequences. Those are quite good. Overall, Scaramanga's a great villain as a whole. Christopher Lee does a fantastic job. Moore is okay. I don't like Goodnight. The score is fine. Maud Adams got a better role in a different movie. And overall, this one is fun, but it's never one I think this one used to be higher, but like Thunderball, it's gone down and down on my list overall. But I think it's a little better than Thunderball because it's more entertaining. And I think that this one's fun. Like, that's how I describe it. But I hate the slide whistle. I don't like how they utilized Sheriff J.W. Pepper. I think he was so much better in Live and Let Die. The song's okay. And I think that I get a fun time out of this one when I'm in the mood to. There's not much I really just dislike at the movie. And the plot is kind of odd. But I do like the kind of Bond versus Bond equal kind of thing. But the thing involving high fat and the kung fu stuff just doesn't really work for me. But this movie's still fun and I'm kind of going on. Talking about fun, number 18, you have A View to a Kill. A View to a Kill, I think this one dropped a bit on this past watch. Like, as I mentioned, my Roger Moore Bond movies, I had this one ahead of Moonraker, but I think I just didn't enjoy it as much. There are things I like about it. Love Walken. I absolutely love Grace Jones. Roger Moore's still fun as always. Stacey Sun is a terrible Bond girl. The score is fantastic. The song is fantastic. The settings are... I like France. I'm not a fan of San Francisco because it makes the movie so like 80s feeling. I mean, especially when you watch like some other movies that take place in San Francisco, like Star Trek 4. I think honestly, it's very cheesy. That's how I'd say. Like the Silicon Valley stuff actually works for me. That was kind of cool. But there's a lot of stuff I'm just not a fan in this movie. Like I do think they should have used Zorn a bit more. Like here's what I think. If this movie had Dalton and it was made a bit more serious, I think this one could have been great. Like, I think this could have been one of the best ones. I think it could have been better than Living Daylights. But since you got Roger Moore and he's in his 50s here, like, even in Octopussy, when he's not only like two or 3 years younger and he's jumping on top of trains and even hanging onto a plane, I still believe him. But even when Roger Moore is doing that fight in the house, I don't believe him there. Or even on top of the Golden Gate Bridge. That stuff doesn't really work for me. And if this movie is a bit more believable, I can understand. And they should have used Roger Moore's age to his advantage. I would have really liked that. And I can understand why some people really don't like it. But if you say it's worse than Spectre or even Dine of the Day, I don't get that. Those two are definitely worse. Like, this might sound really weird, but maybe not Dine of the Day. But, like, Spectre, I don't understand how people like it. Like, that's, like, the one Bond movie I just don't get it. Plain and simple. Number 17 is Moonraker. This is one I actually went into high expectations with, at least in my very first watch, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And I will be, after I finish the Bond series and all those rankings, I'm doing Star Wars, so that's pretty exciting. Anyway, I think Moonraker is fun. I think it's fun. Like, it's one, I think this is probably the one. This one as well as number 16 are probably ones, like, this one I enjoyed quite a bit in this past watch. And I think Drax is a fantastic villain. I think Jaws is alright. Karine is a pretty good Bond girl. Goodhead is a pretty great Bond girl. Moore is as fun as always here, especially in this movie. He's just having a fun time, and I understand why. The action sequences are alright. I love the skydiving sequence. It's incredible. And I absolutely love the whole boat chase. Well, I like it. I don't love it. The Venice boat chase is okay. The one in Brazil is pretty good. The gondola fight, stupid, but it's fun. and the space action sequence is okay. I think this one is kind of a copy of The Spy Who Loved Me, and I kind of want to do like a movie comparison sort of thing because I think that would be a good idea as a whole. I think there's some good things. Like I think Charge is a pretty good henchman. As I said, Roger Moore is just great here. And I think this is the one I think that's probably going the most over the top. Like some other movies, like even like Die Another Day just takes itself way too seriously. Here you just kind of get the over the top and it's just fun. And by the way, that's no moon. It's a space station. I just couldn't do it. You see, I even have the Death Star there. That proves that I'm a Star Wars fan. The Star Wars gods. Do I get my license to be a Star Wars fan? I hope so. Anyway, going back to Moonraker, I think this one's still fun. The space station is fantastic. The score is alright. I think Drax, as a whole, I think he's better than Stromberg. Like, he's one of the quiet villains, and I think it works for me. Number 16, The World Is Not Enough. I'll put it this way. Anyway, I think The World Is Not Enough is a fun one. Electra King is a pretty good villain. Renard is a pretty good henchman. Denise Richards is just terrible. I think she's not a good Bond girl. As a physicist, it just doesn't work. I mean, she's not the worst Bond girl. I think she's actually better than, like, 2 others. But, like, she just doesn't work here. I mean, it's not so much Denise Richards that I hate, but why would they call it Christmas Jones? That's the part I don't like. And the Christmas joke at the end just doesn't work. Anyway, the action sequences are quite good, actually, and so is the David Arnold score. Love the boat chase. The finale's pretty good. So is some other ones, too. Like, I enjoy the mine sequence, whatever you call it, the bomb. And there's some other ones, like the factory sequence is pretty good. The ski chase is kind of weird. It's probably the worst ones in the series. Like, even Veto kills with the stupid Beach Boys music is I think, a little bit better than this one. And Brosnan is great here. This might be his best performance. Not as Bond, but just as an actor as a whole. I don't think he beats Thomas Crown Affairs, but still, I think it's great. Overall, like, I think this movie just works. I don't get the hate. Like, I think this is one that I just enjoy. I enjoy the Brosnan era as a whole. Like, this one, I think, is just one that I just wish I kind of could put higher, because I had this one higher, like way higher before this binge watch. And I have an idea. At the end of the video, I'm going to show what my older ranking was before I binge watched the movies. So, I mean, I enjoy this movie quite a bit. I think it's a good, but not great. Like, I think it has a lot of problems. Like, the plot is kind of generic. Oh, wait, before we do, let's find the locations here. So, we got Baku and Azerbaijan. 15, we have 4 years only. I think the villain here, Aristo Christados, he's fine. I don't hate him. I think there's villains that are worse than him, like specifically like Koskov from The Living Daylights. But I still don't think he's a good villain. I think the locations here kind of like Thunderball, less so, but like I think this Thunderball and Dr. No kind of give me like the vacation vibe as a whole. Like I think I just feel that here. And I still enjoy this movie. My mom's not going to like me for placing this at number 15 because this is her number 1. And I think there are good things in this movie. Like I think the Lotus, bringing back that is pretty cool. I think it's a nice breath of fresh air after Moonraker, and I think Melina Havelock's a good Bond girl. The more grounded story is kind of interesting. It's not quite executed well. I think this is probably of the 3 kind of reboot Bond movies, like Majesty's Secret Service, and Casino Royale. I guess also GoldenEye. I think it's the weakest of the 3, of 4 actually. I think honestly, like it's still a good movie. Like I just get the vacation vibe here. Not as much as Thunderball, I just do. And that's kind of what I should have in a Bond movie. Some of the action sequences are quite good. Like, I absolutely love the car chase. The ski chase in the middle is quite good. The helicopter sequence with Blofeld's fine. The song is pretty good. I also do like the action sequence in Albania. And I think this one's just pretty good. Like, I think this is one of them I think just good. I think Roger Moore does a great job. He's a bit more serious in this one than he has been really in any of his other movies. Even like Me Out the Golden Gun, I think I still think maybe he's more serious in that one, but he kind of mixes in the jokes a little bit here too, which is kind of nice. And I think that this has the best Roger Moore Bond moments as a whole. And I think this is a good movie, but it's not as good as some of the others. 14, You'll Be Only Twice. You Only Live Twice, For Your Eyes Only, and The World Is Not Enough were very hard to place, honestly. World Is Not Enough I bumped, and Young Twice. Really, I bumped all of them back, and then I bumped Dr. No up, and a different, and my number 13 was bumped up a spot. And I just didn't enjoy this one as much. Like, I still really do enjoy it. This one I think is kind of settled in my mind. It's just good. But here, I think Blofeld, Donald Pleasance is probably the best Blofeld we've gotten. I understand why you don't think so, because there's some weird scenes with him. But he still does a great job. Kissy is not a very good Bond girl. I think Aki's pretty good, but like, they didn't really, I think the way they fell in love was kind of weird with Aki and Bond, but yeah, Connery is really what hurts this movie. Like, I just don't think Connery's as good here. The space station plot actually is kind of fun for me. And as I said, this is Thunderball done right. Like, the way the plot structured is, Bond doesn't know what's going on. Like, he knows what's going on, but he doesn't know what's the who, the what, and the why. And then, but here, we don't know really any of that, except maybe the what, but like we don't know the what, we don't know the why, or the what, or the who, and neither does Bond. So we're on the same page as Bond, and I always like that. Some of the action sequences here are great. I love Little Nelly, fantastic. The pre-title sequence is fine. The song is pretty good. The volcano layer, why do I have to even mention it? It's fantastic. And the action sequence in it is fantastic. Tanaka's a pretty good Bond ally. Blofeld's a good villain. Hans could have been utilized as a little bit more of a henchman. And my only problem with this one is really, you just get so many just random blokes just coming around to kill Bond. Sent by either Osado, Number 11, or Blofeld, or should I say Helga. Helga's no Fiona, but I still think she's okay. I think this one kind of dropped down a bit for me. But I still do enjoy this movie. Japan's a fantastic setting. Coming in number 13, we have The Living Daylights. I think, honestly, I think every time I watch a movie, I expect this one to be just okay. But I end up really enjoying it. I think between the opening of the movie and the cello are quite good. I don't play the cello. I played the guitar, but because of COVID. I'll talk about that later. That's not for this video. Anyway, I think this one's pretty good. The locations are actually quite good. Like, I like Afghanistan. I love Austria. I think Vienna's pretty good too. Vienna's in Austria. Sorry, not Vienna. Tangier's alright. The villains here are kind of bad. Like, I don't like Whitaker. I don't really like Koskov either. I think some of the allies are good. Like, I really like Saunders. I think he's great. And then I also really like Pushkin too. He's played by a great actor, John Rhys-Davies, from Indiana Jones, one of my favorite movies of all time. Also, he's in Lord of the Rings, which are a pretty good trilogy of movies. And I think he does a great job here. Necros is a pretty good henchman. Dalton does a good job. Carmelovi's a pretty good Bond girl. The Aston Martin, I think this is the most different looking Aston Martin we've gotten. I think the car chase in general is fantastic. As well as the cello case escape, that's kind of cool too. I think I've always had some sort of disconnection with Kara, because I never really cared for her. Like, the new Moneypenny's pretty good. I think this one still kind of feels like it's kind of from a template from a Roger Moore Bond movie. Then I think it could have gone a bit more serious. It could have gone a bit more dark. Could have gone a bit more bloody, like License to Kill did. And it's not quite there, so I find it kind of weird in the series. But I think it's a great Cold War movie, and it works for me. But I don't like the villains. Coming at number 12, we have Dr. No. I really like Dr. No, especially on the Swatch. This is always one I feel like has just been good to me, but I really did enjoy it. I think Honey Rider's a fantastic Bond girl. Julius No's a pretty good villain. And I think some other allies, like I really like Coral. I think he's fantastic. This is probably the one where you get the most like bloody. I think really until you get to the Craig era, this is really the most bloody you've seen Bond. Like he's a bit more serious here. Honey Rider works as a Bond girl, and I really just love Crab Key. Fantastic setting. And overall, I just enjoy this one. This one has a cool 50s vibe to it, and I get the sense of vacation, kind of like For Your Eyes Only and Thunderball. But like this one, I think just has a great story as a whole. I've always been kind of confused in what exactly the villain is trying to do, but like I think him working for Spectre, kind of a nice introduction to Spectre as a whole. I guess you get the infomercial with Love and Thunderball, but here, this is where you get the name Spectre mentioned first. Well, it's the first Bond movie. What do you expect? And as an introduction to our character, really works for me. Connery is fantastic here. And not quite as good as he will be in, like, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger. Less so Thunderball, but I think still his Thunderball performance is better. And you get the introduction of the Walther PBK, pretty cool, famous gun, really. Anyway, but you get all the introduction you want to get to for this character as a whole, and I think it's a great movie. I just think it's kind of because it's the first. It's very small scale compared to some other ones, and I don't really feel the need to rewatch this one as much. Coming in number 11, we have Octopussy. Probably the weirdest name for any Bond movie. This or Quantum of Solace, but Octopussy is just a fun time. This is probably the most fun and rewatchable Bond movie. This or Tomorrow Never Dies. And I think I always really just in the mood to watch it. This is probably the Roger Moore one I've seen the most recently, but this is the one I feel like whenever in the mood to watch Roger Moore, I either go with Spy Who Loved Me or Octopussy. I normally end up choosing Octopussy for the most part, and I think it's a fun movie. Louis Jourdan is a pretty good, I guess he's an alright villain. I think Orlov is a pretty good villain too. He's okay. I think Gabinder is an alright henchman. He works for me. I think Mishka and Glishka, I don't know how you pronounce that, but I think they're pretty good henchmen, I guess. And the action sequences are great. Love the plane sequence at the beginning. Love the train fight. Love the jungle sequence. I know people hate it, but I really like it. This movie just has some great action sequences as a whole. Some other things I do really like. I like Octopussy as a Bond girl as a whole here. India's a cool location for a Bond movie. I don't quite get the sense of vacation here as I do in some other ones, but it still works for me. I think the Cold War stuff is alright, but I think what hurts this one quite a bit is the story. The story is the thing that just hurts it here. Like even some other ones, like some of the past ones, like Living Daylights and Dr. Noah Better Stories, because there's so much in there just crumbled all together. Like the whole egg thing is just abandoned halfway through it. But it doesn't, unlike a Veto Kill or in Living Daylights, it doesn't really hurt the movie for me. Kicking out the top 10, you have Tomorrow Never Dies. This one is fun. Like, I enjoy Elliot Carver as a villain. Terry Hatcher is pretty good as Paris Carver. I also do like Wei Lin as a Bond girl, probably the most badass Bond girl ever. Brosnan is fun here. He's probably not his best performance, but he's still great here. I also really do enjoy the final battle and the action sequences in general, especially the car chase in the multi-story parking lot, I guess. The plane sequence in the beginning's fun. I also really do like the sequence in with the motorcycle, as well as the other one, as well as the one at the newspaper office, I guess. The action sequence here are really what makes this movie. The plot is actually one of the more realistic ones, honestly, but it's pretty big and grand in scale as a whole, but it feels pretty big. Like, it feels big and kind of realistic. Like it's more realistic than a diamond satellite, or someone built a space station wants to kill everyone on Earth, or even the whole heroin thing in Live and Let Die. But this one feels realistic, and it works for me. Like, Brosnan is fun here. The BMW is great. The Surrender song by Katie Lang is fantastic. The Sheryl Crow song's alright, but still works for me. This is one I really enjoy. This is one I always go back to because it's so much fun. And whenever I'm just in the mood to watch just like a fun Bond movie, this is the one I normally go to. At least if I want a Brosnan one, I normally go with this or GoldenEye as a whole. And I think it's a ton of fun. The only things I'm not a huge fan of, really, in general, I don't really care for the henchmen here. The reason, I think it's less so because I'm not a fan of them, but I think it's more so because coming off of GoldenEye, which had probably the best villain ensemble in the entire series, when you got Xenia, Trebellion, Orlov, and Boris. Here you have Gupta, which he's fine. Elliot Carver's still a great villain, and I think Stamper is kind of a knockoff of Reg Ramp. He still works for me, and I think Dr. Kaufman's pretty good too. Like, I think the henchmen are just kind of I feel like they're kind of knockoffs of other characters. Like, Gupta is a Boris knockoff, honestly. Dr. Kaufman doesn't really knock off much, and then obviously Stamper's a knockoff of Reg Ramp. But those are my only really big flaws with this movie. But this one's just so much fun. Coming in at number 9, we have Live and Let Die. The song here is really just fantastic. I absolutely love the Paul McCartney song. This movie's just another one that's just a ton of fun. I absolutely love the action sequences, especially the boat chase. I also really love the final battle because the layer is so cool. It's a bit small in scale, but it kind of works for me. And when I say I love it, I just like it, I think. And the pre-title sequence is kind of odd, probably the weakest one. This or You Only Live Twice. And there's some stuff I don't really care for, like the blaxploitation stuff is kind of weird, especially at this point in the series. And this movie feels like a bit television-y, but this is one I've always really enjoyed. And I think it's kind of swapped with The Man with the Golden Gun. Like, I think it's just done this. And I think overall, Live and Let Die, I think this is one in every watch I just like more and more. And like I think Sheriff J.W. Pepper is just a ton of fun here. Kanang is a great villain. Solitaire's a pretty good Bond girl. I don't think I liked her as much as I thought I did as a whole. Teehee's a good henchman. So is Baron Samedi. Ha 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 ha. My mom can do a good impression of him. And there's some odd stuff. The heroine plotline is just kind of weird as a whole. But it works better than Diamonds Are Forever's cloning plotline, Diamond Satellite. But anyway, I just do enjoy this movie. I think Roger Moore's fun here. Not as good as he would be in like later ones like Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, and even Octopussy, or even For Your Eyes Only actually. But I think he still does a good performance here. I think he was more like kind of like, I guess, sort of like, I wouldn't say violent. I wouldn't say violent actually. Like a bit more like, I guess, snarky than Connery was in like his past movies. I think they kind of took that away after Spy Who Loved Me. And I think he doesn't quite do serious as well here as he does in some of his later ones. But I still think he does a great job. But there's some weird things in this movie as a whole. But I still really enjoy it. Coming in at number 8, we have License to Kill. The song here is great too. Gladys Knight does a fantastic job. Fran Sanchez is a great villain. Timothy Dalton does a much better job here than he did in Living Daylights. Just because I feel like this movie is more suited for him. This is the first like actual like kind of gory Bond movie. It doesn't quite work. It's kind of odd. Like I can understand why this one is not for everyone. Because it's just like, it's very like, I feel like this is probably the first Bond movie where you just kind of got to see Bond as Bond, not Bond as 007. Like, I guess you kind of saw that on Her Majesty's Secret Service, but that was more him as just a character. This is more just him as like what he can do in the field. And I think that's kind of cool. Felix Leiter was utilized perfectly here. Probably the best utilization of Felix Leiter ever. This Casino Royale and Live and Let Die just used the character to his full potential. And it was really well executed. The henchman, Dario, pretty good henchman. A bit young, but it works for me. And I think there are good things. Like, I think the Tanker Chase action sequence is great. So is the barefoot ski sequence. That one's cool. The middle hour of the movie is okay. I think between the whole thing with, like there's, it's kind of uneven a bit in the middle, but there are great things in this movie, and I think I especially enjoyed it on this past watch. And I think the Living Daylight sniper scene is better, to be honest. But I think Dalton, this movie, it has some flaws. Like, I think he looks great in a diving suit. I think he looks better than Roger Moore does in a diving suit. But still, the outfits are kind of what hurts this one for me. But I still really enjoy it. Number 7, we have On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is one that's just gone up, up, up. Like, I absolutely love this one now. Like, there's some things I think Tracy Bond is probably the best Bond girl we've gotten. I also really like Natalia from GoldenEye, as well as Vesper in Casino Royale. I think Tracy's one of the best Bond girls that we've gotten as a whole. Her death scene at the end is just a great scene as a whole. Pretty tragic. And I wish Irma Bunt showed up again. I think Telly Savalas is my second favorite Blofeld. I guess third if you include the one from From Russia with Love and Thunderball. But here, I really just I love this movie, honestly. Like, Piz Gloria is just beautiful. The middle part of the movie, I'd say, like, before you get to Piz Gloria, it's just alright. I think it's just pretty good. Like, the whole thing with Bond and Tracy really works for me. And I actually like Lazenby. I think he's actually a good Bond. He works for me. This is the one where I feel like you have some great action sequences in the second half. Absolutely love the ski chase. I also really do like the car chase. Like, that whole, like, fourth, fifth of the movie is just a bunch of action sequences sequences, and they're all great, honestly. There's not one bad one. The one with the room of metal, the one with the guy in the metal room, because there's all these like bells. That one is just fine, but the rest of them are great. And I think honestly, I also really do like the bobsled action sequence at the end. The action sequences here are great because Lazenby can do the physicality. I think he's the most physical Bond until he got Dalton, really. And this movie takes itself very seriously. Like, I think this is probably the most serious Bond movie we've gotten up to this point. This or Dr. No, because I think honestly it really works for me. And I think overall, I think this is one I always liked, but not loved. But now I think this is one I love. Coming in number 6, we have The Spy Who Loved Me. Honestly, I think Roger Moore is probably at his best here. Anya's a great Bond girl. Stromberg's an alright villain. I think Atlantis is a cool layer, but not as good as the space station in my opinion. I think there's some great action sequences. I absolutely love the ski chase at the beginning. Some other ones like the car chase. I think the La Pars fight is probably the best. Maybe this or the volcano layer fight. Best like army versus army, just clash together, fight. And I think that really works for me. And I just enjoy this one, because you see Russian and Britain coming together to solve this mystery, and it really just does work for me. These Lewis Gilbert ones, I think are probably the biggest Bond movies. Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker are probably the two biggest ones we've really gotten. I guess Tomorrow Never Dies and Die Another Day are also quite big too. But yeah, I really just enjoy this one. I think Jaws is a fantastic henchman in this movie. And, I mean, we're ending the Roger Moore hunts because it's the last one I have up here. And overall, I just enjoy it. Cairo is a cool setting. Some other action sequences. I didn't even mention the train fight. Oh, my God. That one's also great, too. Cairo's a cool setting, as I said. Sardinia is okay. But, but the settings are not really matters here. And you got the same actor that showed up in 3 movies in a row. Well, not really in a row. I guess you got You Only Live Twice, Diamonds Are Forever, and now here. I think this is the best role of the 3, honestly. And the only things I'm not a huge fan of, it kind of drags a little when he's in Cairo, but it doesn't bother me that much. I don't really have any other flaws. I think this is probably the one I've seen the most because it's so rewatchable and so enjoyable. At the top 5, you have Skyfall. I think we kind of just had a 3-way tie here. Majesty's Secret Service, Spy Who Loved Me, and Skyfall. I think Skyfall is the best of the 3 because I actually came out of watching it 2 days ago. I think honestly, Raul Silva's a fantastic villain here. Kind of ruined a little bit by Spectre, but not a lot. I also really do like what they did with M. This and The World Is Not Enough are the ones that I think you kind of got a bit from her, as well as Casino Royale, but you'll see that in a little bit. I think the Bond girl here is actually, well, there's no Bond girl. I'm kidding. I guess Savarine, but she's okay. I think M is the Bond girl, really, but I wouldn't call her a Bond girl. I think exploring Bond, I think this is the one where you get the most exploration of both with the characters. Bond, you see him go back to his home where he is used to live, I guess, when he was a kid. And I think the song here is probably as the best one. Skyfall by Adele. I'm not an Adele fan. I'm more of a Paul McCartney fan, honestly, than an Adele fan. But I think the song here is just fantastic. I mean, I think the final battle action sequence is cool. I really love the running chase through London. The train fight and the opening is quite cool. There's a few things I don't love. A lot of the plot contrivances. I think all the problems I'd really have in Spectre, I'd say, all the big problems, the plot contrivances, really, especially, are, appearing in Skyfall, but they're not as noticeable. Specifically how Silva got to do this stuff in his years in the making. That didn't quite work for me, but it doesn't bother me. Craig is just a ton of fun to watch here. I think Judi Dench is proud. This settles her as definitely the best M. This and Casino Royale kind of just did. And I think they did a lot of great stuff with her. I like the introduction to Ray Fiennes' character, Gareth Mallory. That really worked for me. I like the new Moneypenny. And I think this movie just works. I think this is when it dropped down a little bit because of past watches. I just haven't enjoyed it quite as much. But I really enjoyed this movie on this past watch. Coming in at number 4, we have Goldfinger. This is one I think I've just always loved. I absolutely love Goldfinger as a villain. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Pussy Galore is a great Bond girl. Not quite as good as some of the other ones like Tracy, Vesper, and Natalia, but I still think she really works. Oddjob is probably one of the best henchmen in the entire series. Just his gimmick really works. I think the golf scene is fantastic here. There's just so many just good moments here. The action sequences are pretty good. Like, I like the opening sequence. That one's pretty cool. I also really do like the car chase, and the Oddjob fight is probably the best fight in the entire series. Like, I said that in Quantum of Solace, that the shoe fight in the hotel room, I think, is the best the fight with a random bad guy. But Oddjob's not a random bad guy, so I guess this is the best one. But anyway, I really just love this movie. This one, I think, is one that I think most people would say is number 1. I don't think it's quite number 1, just because I don't think it's quite as rewatchable. I don't think the story's quite up there. I think it still really works. I think Goldfinger is the best Bond villain as a whole. And I think it has a lot of the best elements. Connery gives the best Bond performance ever. And I just think this movie works. This is the first, like, legit blockbuster Bond movie, I'd say. Overall, like, this one's just fun. It works. Like, I don't get how anyone could dislike this one. I just really like it, and it's in the top 4, I guess. I mean, so that's a plus. But overall, I don't think it's number 1 just because I wouldn't rewatch this one as much. Number 3 is From Russia with Love. This I think I've just gone from okay to loving it. But, like, I think I used to not love this one as much, but now I really love it. Like, I don't get how anyone could dislike this one, because it has so many great things. All the spy elements to it just work so well. I absolutely love all the things involving the Lecter. All the Alfred Hitchcock stuff really works for me. This is the one where I think you get the most, like, I think this and Dr. No don't quite feel as much like Bond movies as some of the other ones do, because they're so different. Dr. No feels like it has, like, a lot of, like, a 50s vibe to it in many ways. This one borrows a lot from Hitchcock movies, specifically North by Northwest, which is a fantastic movie. I gotta get around to reviewing it someday. And there's just so many good things here. The only thing I'd say holding it back from being number 1 is just rewatchability. I don't tend to rewatch this one as much. I don't think Tanya is quite as good of a Bond girl as some of the others. The gypsy camp scenes kind of drag out a bit. I love the train fight. That is just fantastic. The gypsy camp fight's pretty good too. Like, there are just great things in this movie. But I think the whole as a whole really works for me. And I mean, I think this one's better than Goldfinger just because it ages better. I think it ages better. I think Goldfinger's more of a rewatchable movie, but I think this one, it just ages better. Like, the Orient Express stuff is fantastic. Loved all of that so much. Red Grant's a great henchman. Blofeld's fantastic here. I love that they didn't show his face until You Only Live Twice, because they gave him a great introduction. I even put in my intro. Here, see for yourself. Okay, I guess you didn't need to, but whatever. I love Kleb. Kronstein's okay. I also love I also really like a few other things in this movie, but my only problem as a whole, really, I just factors the rewatchability. I don't tend to rewatch this one as much, but it's a great story, and this is kind of just Bond's, like, sort of danger thing. And Karen Bay might be the best Bond ally we've ever seen. Sorry, Mathis and Felix, but I think Karen Bay's just fantastic. Coming in at number 2, we have GoldenEye. I think, honestly, the Tina Turner song is great. I absolutely love Trevelyan as the villain. Oromov and Xenia are even better than Trevelyan, honestly, which is saying quite a bit. I think they're the 2 best henchmen. Well, I guess Jaws, Oddjob. I still think Oromov and Xenia are the best. I guess also Mayday, Irma Bunt are also come close, but whatever. I love this movie. I honestly just do. This is one I think used to be a number 1. I dropped it to number 2 just because I don't think it's quite as good. But I think Brosnan's just fantastic here already right off the bat. Natalia's a fantastic Bond girl. I buy their chemistry really well. And it just works for me. The score, I think, is probably the main reason why it's not number 1. But I don't think it's horrible. It's just kind of weird. for a Bond movie. Like, I think the score and the parade title is fantastic. Everything else is just fine. And I wish the Tina Turner song was kind of important into the score, because whenever they do that, like Live and Let Die, You Only Live Twice, it improves the score for me. I mean, there's not really any Bond movie where I'd say that where the song kind of is improved, where it's in the score really just disimproves it. I guess maybe there's one movie I'd say it would, and that's The Spy Who Loved Me, but it doesn't bother me that much. The action sequences are great here. I absolutely love the parade title. It's just brilliant. I also absolutely love the car chase through St. Petersburg. Love the end fight with Rebellion and the satellite. And I also love the fact that the villain's lair kills the villain. That's kind of cool to me. And I didn't even mention Boris. I think he's just so much fun. He's so funny. I'm invincible. Anyway, I just really do enjoy this movie. This is one I don't get how anyone could dislike it. The only thing I can get out of someone could dislike is just the score. And I think the Tina Turner song is great too. There's just so many great things. And this is kind of like a return to kind of the Cold War fashion Bond movies. And I actually kind of like that. Coming in number 1, we have Casino Royale. I don't really have any flaws with this movie. This movie's just fantastic. Lestrange is a great villain. Not as good as Trevelyan, but he still really works for me. I think Vesper is one of the best Bond girls. I think all the stuff involving her story just really works for me. Craig is great right off the bat. This one is very rewatchable. Like, I tend to rewatch this one. Probably the most rewatchable of the Craig era. The casino scenes really work for me. The free run chase is probably the best action sequence of the entire Craig era, and even maybe the entire series. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The sword fight is great too. So is the final battle in the building. And I also love the Miami airport action sequence. I don't love as much as some of you do, but I still think it's great. And I think this movie just works. Like, it's one that I think I just go back to just because all the pieces put together it just comes together well. The only things I've never really cared for is, like, it kind of switches plot lines about halfway. Like, right when M gets to Cuba, or it's not, I think it was Cuba, or it might have been Bahamas, I'm not sure. Wherever he was in the hotel, it kind of switches from the whole Skyfleet plot line and then over to the casino and the whole thing with Vesper. It kind of switches over kind of dramatically. I wish it kind of was more of a clean switch, but other than that, I have really no flaws with this movie. All the action sequences are well shot, well written. Some of the dialogue is kind of weird, specifically in the casino. Didn't love all of those stuff, but the way M is utilized really works for me. The David Arnold score is great. There's nothing I really would say I just dislike. I wish Lestrange was not killed off in the middle of the movie. I wish Mr. White was utilized a bit more. But I love the ending with Bond saying the Bond, James Bond, the second best, or maybe even the third. Third or fourth best of the Bond, James Bond lines. I'd say The World Is Not Enough, Doctor on Goldfinger, I'd say beat it just by a bit. And I absolutely love this movie. So that concludes this one. I just want to say one thing. Here's my ranking for the Bond movies before I did the binge watch. So you'll see some minor differences. It didn't change that much, but unlike the MCU, which pretty much stayed the same, there's a few differences specifically with Thor, but here it's kind of a dramatic switch, at least kind of. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.